We have some visitors that have been here before in the back. David and Gloria from Charlotte, and they have a house up on McManus Loop at Wolf Laurel. Lynn is visiting today? No.
He was waving to them.
Oh, he's waving to them, okay. So we're happy to have y'all visiting with us, and they've been here before, and we hope to see them more often since they're now both retired. Gloria's a middle school teacher, or had been a middle school teacher.
I survived.
And you survived. Yeah, Kim is a teacher. And where's Marcia and Carolyn were both teachers. They survived. Yeah, there's Marcia and Carolyn.
Yeah, I didn't kill him.
I was going to say something else now.
Last night.
Well, yeah, most of us survived. Most of you that are here were here last night, and we all survived except Nathan. So, it must have been something he had.
It wasn't the food.
It wasn't the food. No, the rest of us wouldn't have been here.
Right.
But anyway, since Nathan is not here, today we'll have to use our bulletins and our hymnals as we go through the worship service. So, we can't be lazy. And Kim has an announcement to make, I think.
Yes.
Somebody told me he did.
Yes. My kids, the kindergarten kids at my school, are collecting stuffed animals for children in crisis. And so this basket is here if anybody wants to help us. About the next month, for about a month, we're going to collect stuffed animals and give them to EMS and policemen to have in their car when they come in contact with a child who has a need. And if you leave them here, Jim will play with them.
We have something to do.
Yeah, we have something to do on
Kim, you do want new ones, don't you?
preferably,
Yeah.
Yes.
or, you know,
Good condition.
very
Make
nice,
sure they're
very
clean.
good condition, yeah. If they're, you don't want one that's been slobbered on or anything.
Yeah. Told me to watch me.
Well, then you don't want my wolf, but from my wolf pack days, because I'm
Did
chewing
you
it when they
slobber
lose
on
it.
So you'll be collecting those how long?
For about a month.
For about a month, okay. Through the month of March.
Yeah.
We'll put them up there in front of the altar.
Okay.
Yeah.
In your bulletins on the back, notice that next Saturday is food pantry, and we were packed with food 2 Saturdays ago, but now we're about cleaned out again.
Wow.
So anybody that wants to bring food, the church will be open Tuesday till about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. If you want to bring it Tuesday, or you can bring it to the food pantry on Saturday. But we can use just about everything. I think we're pretty good with, Lucy, we're in good shape with macaroni and cheese and
We can always use
Go down,
canned
you
fruit,
can eat it,
canned
see?
meats, cereal. We had a lot of cereal, and the cereal all disappeared, so that's a good thing.
Oh,
paper products,
Yeah,
go
we're
fast,
appreciative to have the paper products.
toilet paper or paper towels. So for your information, we have a food pantry over here in the baseball fields concession stand every other Saturday from 9 until noon. And we get our food from donations from the congregation, and that is really our basis of our food. Most of it comes from the Lord's Harvest, which is run by Bill Welch out of the Mars Hill Baptist Church. And they bring every other week 20 boxes packed with food that they get from a variety of sources, including manna, food bank, and things like that. And so anybody that wants to come to pick up food, they'll get a box that comes from Bill and the Lord's Harvest, and then each person is offered an empty box that they can shop our shelves and take what they want. So that's the food bank. Yeah, last time we dispensed 30 boxes, so that was quite a haul. So that's next Saturday, this coming Saturday. And then Sunday, a week from today, the 1st of March, is men's breakfast at 7 7:46 in the morning. 7:46. Anybody else have any other announcements? Barbara?
Dr. Snyder.
Dr.
Snyder was the one who started.
Dr. Snyder started. 7:46. Other announcements?
Ash Wednesday.
Jim's going to do the, Ash Wednesday service coming up. So, if there are no other announcements, please stand and, yes, Angela.
Well, it's a request for prayer. Frank's son, Anthony, will be having heart surgery Tuesday.
Oh, no. Okay. Frank's son, Anthony.
Where does he live?
He just lives up 23 here after you turn
Okay,
that little white house. on the
Right
right
below,
there.
Okay. And of course, keep Angela's knees in your prayers.
Yes.
We're glad you were able to come last night and this morning too. So please stand and greet one another with a passage of peace. Follow our gathering song. You'll find it, the page number in the bulletin. Page 169, 27.
oh, in another world. Talked about it in here. It's another world.
Oh,
Just staring at the table and thinking.
good job. And you're so good at this. It's like, you got cookies. Remember that?
Peace be with you. You're holding them all up. Yeah. It was. I seen him move.
Get welcome again.
Call to worship can be found on page 259. It's entitled Transfiguration. Let us share these words together. Holy God, on the mountain you revealed our Messiah, who by his death and resurrection would fulfill both the law and the prophets. By his transfiguration, enlighten our path, that we may dare to suffer with him in the service of humanity, and so share in the everlasting glory of him who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever. Amen. Please be seated. bulletins to the call to prayer, that we might share these words together. O God, in mystery and silence, you are present in our lives, bringing new life out of destruction, hope out of despair, growth out of difficulty. We thank you that you do not leave us alone, but labor to make us whole. Help us to perceive your unseen hand in the unfolding of our lives, and to attend to the gentle guidance of your Spirit, that we may know the joy you give your people. Amen. Just let us take a few moments to be in the spirit of prayer as we offer our personal confession to Almighty God. Dear God, we are forever grateful for having some quiet time with you in the midst of worship. May your Holy Spirit now touch us in a way that you have something special here for each one of us. In Christ we pray. Amen. Opening hymn number 103. Words from 1 Timothy 889. There is one God and there is one mediator, Christ Jesus, who has once and for all, to whom we testify. This saying is sure and worthy of full acceptance, that Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners, and was manifested in the flesh, vindicated in the Spirit, seen by angels, proclaimed among the nations, believed in throughout the world, taken up in glory. Great indeed is the mystery of the gospel. Amen.
The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and wait there. I'll give you the stone tablets with the instructions and the commandments that I've written in order to teach them." So Moses and his assistant Joshua got up, and Moses went up God's mountain. Moses said to the elders, "Wait for us here until we come back to you. Aaron and Hur will be here with you. Whoever has a legal dispute may go to them." Then Moses went up the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The Lord's glorious presence settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the 7th day, the Lord called to Moses from the cloud. To the Israelites, the Lord's glorious presence looked like a blazing fire on top of the mountain. Moses entered the cloud and went up the mountain. Moses stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. It's the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
The responsive reading is Psalm 99. The Lord reigns, let the people tremble. The Lord sits enthroned upon their cherubim, let the earth quake.
The Lord is great in Zion, and is exalted over all the peoples.
Let me praise your great and wondrous name.
Holy is the Lord.
Mighty ruler, lover of justice, you have established equity.
You have executed justice and righteousness in Jacob.
Extol the Lord our God, worship at the Lord's footstool.
Holy is the Lord.
Moses and Aaron were among God's priests. Samuel also is among those who called on God's name.
They cried to the Lord, who answered them, who spoke to them in the pillar of cloud.
They kept God's testimonies and the statutes God gave them.
O Lord our God, you answered them. You were a forgiving God to them, but an avenger of their wrongdoings.
Extol the Lord our God and worship at his holy mountain.
Surely the Lord our God is holy.
O soul, you will
Mr. Rich asked Charlie, what'd you have for dinner last night? She said, I don't remember. Everything. I want to show you some things that Pastor Jim wears when he has his white robe on. And these are called, different colors for the season of the year. We have this color during the season of Advent, and that's in December, and that's right before what? What happens in December? Christmas. And so we are preparing for Christmas with Advent, and then once Christmas comes, for a couple of weeks, we go to white, because the birth of Jesus and Christmas, that's pretty cool. And then after that comes the season of Epiphany, and we use white a little bit, but then we have green, like what we have right here. And this is the last day of Epiphany. It's also called Transfiguration Sunday. And if Pastor Jim hadn't been so lazy, he would have changed the colors to white today. And I apologize that I didn't do that. But then comes Lent, and we go back to purple. And Lent is time for us to prepare before, what happens after Lent? Easter. And then Easter, we go back to white again. And then after Easter comes Pentecost. Do we know what Pentecost is about? No? When the Holy Spirit comes. And with Pentecost, we go to red. And then after Pentecost, and sometime in the summer, we go to what we call in the Methodist Church Kingdom Tide, and we go back to green again. And we stay there, until Christ the King Sunday, and we go to white again. And then comes Advent again, and we do it all over again. So when you see all these colors, that's what they mean. Now, on the altar, there's a prayer quilt. If you were to say the most dominant color in the prayer quilt, what would you say it is? Purple. This is for a friend, Liz Benjamin, who is pretty sick. And we do with prayer quilts. The last 10 come and tie the little knots in these. Well, the person who is sick, her favorite color is purple. It's going to be a very meaningful time for her to receive this quilt, knowing that we have tied these knots in prayer for her. So let's all take advantage of that when we can. All right, let's pray. Dear God, thank you for the seasons of the year and the colors that remind us of different things that happen in the church that remind us of Jesus. Amen. Thank you. I believe the next hymn is 2102 in your black hymnal. Do I have another way? I do. I may have.
Roses and the light of
17, 1 through 9. And it just so happens to be on page 17 in the New Testament. So if you would take your two Bibles, that we might read the Holy Gospel together. Well, I'll read it, you can follow along with it. Hear now the Gospel according to St. Matthew. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with them. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my Son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." This is the gospel of our Lord Christ.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Please be seated. Many of you are accustomed to watching Pardon the Interruption, which is a sports show every day. And one of the hosts, Tony Kornheiser, says often, he said, "I'm going to go to the glasses. So I'm going to the stool today, not whatever." Well, it was the spring of 2004. Our 12 staff members from the Port Charlotte United Methodist Church gathered at an Episcopal Church retreat center to learn more about ourselves, more about each other, and also to be more effective as a staff leading a 1,500-member church. And all of us have taken one of those personality tests that determine who you are in relation to the norms. I'm sure most of us have taken them one time or another. There are no right or wrong answers. But the manner in which we answer the questions set before us gave us an indication of the dominant type of personality you are. To the surprise of no one on that staff of 12, 11 of us came out with a strong type A personality, very focused, dominant, perfectionist-oriented, all except Dan. Dan was our youth director. Dan was not even close to being a type A. Whenever you looked at the youth room, you could understand why. And the person who facilitated this retreat explained to the rest of us that it appeared to her that Dan spent an awful lot of time up in the clouds. He watched the birds soar, he looked for rainbows. Paying attention to details was not something that was very important to Dan. Consequently, with all of us type A personalities around, there were continual conflicts with the youth department. And this retreat helped us to understand why. We're just beginning then to work out our understanding of each other when Hurricane Charlie hit Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, followed by Hurricane Francis, Hurricane Ivan, and Hurricane Gina. 4 hurricanes within a 5-month period. Our church and our town was devastated, and the mess that those hurricanes left behind made Dan's youth room look like a model home. But here's the thing about Dan, the one who hung around in the clouds. With chainsaw in hand and his pickup truck filled with water and gasoline and generators, Dan works nonstop, many times 20 hours a day, helping whomever was in need. To be sure, we all worked together as a staff, and our church became a beacon of light for the town of Port Charlotte. And we helped our community to heal. But no one worked harder than Dan, the guy who had his head up in the clouds a lot. Well, it served both him and us well. So, why do I tell you all of this? Today we encounter 2 very specific scripture passages. Kim read from Exodus, when Moses was up in the clouds, and I read from Matthew, when the 3 disciples were in the clouds with Jesus. Both speak about time in the clouds with God. So let's see what we might discern from those 2 encounters. Let's see if there's a message there for us. Let's see if maybe there might be a Dan or 2 among us who might help us to experience God's presence there. Well, the first thing you notice about Moses is that God summoned him. Come up to me on the mountain and wait there. I will give you some stone tablets with instructions and commandments for the edification of my people. And from a distance, here were the people down in the valley saying, the Lord's glorious presence looked like a blazing fire on top of the mountain. I don't know, when I look up at Wolf Laurel, I don't see any blazing fire. I just see clouds and snow. And I'm sure those of you who live up there know of what I speak. Well, the people anxiously awaited Moses' return. They wanted to know what it was that God had said to him. But he remained on the mountain, as that scripture reading, 40 days and 40 nights. Why was it so long? Was it because God had a lot to say? So for those 40 days that Moses had entered the zone of God's glory, he did a lot of listening. And I want you to capture this expression. He was present before God's own self. God's own self was being revealed to Moses. And Moses was the human agent of God's choosing, where God's own self was revealed. God's revealing of his own self was not for Moses alone. It became available for all of Israel. First, though, Moses had to undergo an awesome, demanding, and transformative experience in the presence of God. And Moses meets God in the voice that comes from within the cloud. And after that experience, nothing is ever the same for Moses again. Unfortunately, patience was not a virtue for those who awaited Moses' return. 40 days was more than they could take, and so they asked Aaron, Moses' brother, who was put in charge, "Come, make gods for us." So Aaron took all the gold offered for it. The story would continue until God demanded Moses put a stop to such idolatry. So let's bring this portion of the Old Testament, what the Holy Spirit might want us today to see. Lent begins in 3 days. And we begin a 40-day period of discernment in which, listen carefully, we are required to spend some quiet time with the presence of God. Note, if you will, the word required. Observing Lent for a Christian is not optional. You can't be half in and half out. You can't discern if you're not there. This is not a time for us to be lukewarm. God's given us this opportunity to encounter God's own self. But anything we do during the season of Lent possibly be more important than that. If you want to get to Easter, then the pathway runs through the wilderness. This is our time to spend time in the clouds with God. Moses heard God's call, and now that call is for each one of us as well. Now, the gospel lesson is equally as dramatic as the one that Kim read from Exodus, because once again, we encounter Moses. Briefly, but we still encounter Moses, along with Elijah. So you might say we are like one of the disciples along for the ride, Peter, James, and John. So we could be there with one of those disciples. Two things are striking. First is the desire for them, Peter, James, and John, to capture the moment, forever. To build 3 shrines. One for Jesus, one for Moses, one for Elijah. Jesus was transformed in front of them. His face shined like the sun. His clothes became as white as light. It is as if God's own self was revealed to those 3 disciples. But they too heard God speak from a cloud. This is my Son, whom I dearly love. Listen to him. Think about that. Listen to him. Is that what being in the clouds with God is about? Listening? Notice, eventually, Moses came down from the mountain. Notice how Jesus and his disciples came down from the mountain. There's a strain here I don't want us to miss. It's very important. It's sort of Dan included. During Lent, we are to spend time with our heads in the clouds. Learning, relating, praying, being transformed by God. This is quiet time for us to be observant of our personal relationship to God. This is the time to turn your eyes upon Jesus and look full in his wonderful face. This is when we get our souls right with God, because of 2 reasons. First, our day will come soon enough when there are no longer any days left to come. Second, since we cannot stay engaged with God in that setting, it's time for us to come down from the mountain, because we have work to do here in the valley, in this present age. Whether it be the food pantry, whether it be getting ready for the clinic, whether it be ready for giving scholarships to young people in the summer, and it certainly will be when we get ready for the Applewater Festival. Unfortunately to the disciples, Jesus was not the long-awaited Messiah that people were expecting, because God's own self was not a knight in shining armor. And for Peter, James, and John just to want to capture the glorification of Jesus while on the mountain in the clouds was a misunderstanding of both the Messiah as well as their own personal response to the Messiah. From the mountain, Jesus is headed for Jerusalem. He's headed to the cross. And from that journey will come humility, powerlessness, self-emptying radical love. And Lent is a time for us to get this right. Lose your life in love and you will receive in return life that is eternal. Lent is a time to listen to the Spirit speak to us through our sentence. So, let me close with this story. The story comes from Peter Nixon. He holds a master's degree in theology from the Jesuit School of Theology in Santa Clara University. He writes this. Many years ago, when my daughter was much younger, I took her to a park downtown. There was a couple sitting on a blanket, watching two children run around the play area. They looked very much in love. The kids were having a ball. Sometimes the man would get up and chase the kids, and they would scream and laugh. They all seemed so full of joy. I recognized the man. He was once an inmate at the county jail near our parish. And at that time, things looked pretty bleak for him. He was wrestling with an addiction, and Child Protective Services had taken custody of his son. He came to our communion service at the jail one Sunday, and something touched his heart. He made a promise to himself that when he got out, he would turn his life around. About a year later, he showed up outside our church one Sunday. He told me that he had been clean for a year and recently regained custody of his son, and he just wanted to thank me. He goes on to say, I used to tell this story to the inmates of the jail when I preached on Transfiguration Sunday, because they were in a dark place. I wanted to give them some hope. And I think that's part of what Jesus was up to when he took Peter and James and John up to that mountain. He had just told them the kind of Messiah that he was going to be and what must happen to him. And he wanted to give them some hope. The guys at the jail would have understood that story. Now the question is, do we? Before we go and pray, I want to say a couple things. David and Cynthia, our visitors, today you are celebrating your 40th wedding anniversary. Is that right?
Gloria.
Gloria, what did I wrote down Cynthia.
Yes, that's right.
Gloria, I apologize. I hope it's not Cynthia.
Is there something I don't know?
Okay. I forgot a lot of things today. I forgot my glasses and anyway. I messed up the last hymn and the hymnal. It's not 60, it's 58. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
And whoever Cynthia is.
We'll talk.
And while we are saying congratulations, we want to say thank you to Gail.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite a host of prepared, and I think it's something we should stay and just.
No, don't ask them to stay.
Don't stay. No. I just told them not to stay. At the same time, we think this is going to be her last Sunday with us because we've had a chance to talk with Jane, and she's hoping to come back next Sunday.
Okay.
She has made a request of us. We would want to embrace her with our love and everything, and Jane just really needs to sit back there in that corner and just be. She said, maybe after the service, if somebody wants to come and say something, that's fine, but just for the first, just let her be. Jane, our regular accompanist, has gone through a series of very difficult time, losing her husband in November and her daughter in January. So she has had a lot to deal with. Those things being said, let's just, one final thing. I mentioned to you about Sharon Luther, who was a parishioner of ours at East Naples and became the lay leader of the Florida Conference and then Episcopal leader with Bishop Carter. Sharon died on Tuesday. Prayers go out to Jim and to the whole conference because she was quite a lady. Quite a lady. So let's go to prayer. Many names, God, we lift you and we place our hand upon these names, and half of them we don't know, but gosh, you know them all, and you created them. So we pray for H.C. Wyatt, for Amy, Matt, Paul, Lynette Young. We pray for Sharon's family. We pray for Jim. We pray for Jane, for Louis Bellman. We pray for J.B.'s family, for John Baker, for Michael Tipton, for Lucy, for Derek Wilcox, Betty Hanson, Elizabeth Devereaux, Jim Broker, Elsa Young, Larry Fox, Megan, Angela Fox. Pray for Frank's son Anthony, who will have heart surgery on Tuesday. For Frida and Howard Mercer, for Sabrina English, for Jane and Alex Bryant, for Karen, for Lisa. For Harry and Barbara Miles, for Brian, Richard Colton, for Sherry Leslie, for Bill Welsh, Darlene Ogden, Ezra Miller, Howard and Susie Orwell, Susan Savard, Amanda Angton, John Shelton, Caitlin Payne. Pray for Chad and Naomi and their new little girl. For Sandy Howard, for Kay and Selma, and Marsha Hamilton, Ashley Noriega, for Peg Kavanaugh, Bobby Ann Snelson, Donnie Hagan, Darlene Probst, Jerry Spann, for Susan Ray, for Michael, Carol Wilson, Nancy Moore, Scott Ashley, Mark, Bruce Fisher, Nikki DePetta, Dixie Tipton, Harold, Pat, Tracy Clements, Scott Randall, Micah, Danny McIntosh, Carol Lee, Wolf Creek. Are there others we'd like to pray either aloud or silently in our hearts? Let's do so at this time. Dear Heavenly Father, we lift release your children from within our community, from within our families to you and pray for them. We pray also, God, for those who have become victims to the terrible virus spreading throughout the world, for those who are victims of terrorism and violence. You didn't make us that way. When you made us, you saw things as being good. Give us an incentive, dear God, to take that good and spend some time with our Lord Jesus during the season of Lent and look into his face. We pray in his name, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I think it's necessary for us to report successes at times for how prayer changes things. Many of you know 6 months ago that Barbara Miles was very ill. And I just heard from Harry this week that they went to Florida and been down there. She has now lost 40 pounds. That is a praise the Lord. And while she is losing these 40 pounds, Harry is growing a beard. So anyway, and then some of your songs. So anyway, well, let the ushers come forward now. Once again, just to remind us that the offering plate, put ourselves into it and pray, God, use me.
the Spirit, Holy Spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
So our closing hymn is 258, not 260, but a wonderful, perfect time as you come forward to pray for this lady who needs our prayers, to kneel or stand, however, as you tie a prayer knot. Pray for yourself. Let's come. Let's be prepared. Hymn number 258.